Have you ever been an injured triathlete or wondered what it was like to recover from an injury or treat people who have injuries? Well, today is your episode. I'm here with a fellow triathlete, a bike fitter, and also physical therapist, Steph Peterson. And we're going to talk about both her journey through some various health concerns that she's had that has prevented her from training at the level that she'd like to, as well as her other real job, the one that pays better than being a triathlete, is as a physical therapist, where she recently opened, I think, a new facility on her own, which is super cool. We're going to talk all about that and what advice she has for triathletes in injury prevention. So today is going to be a full episode. I'm so looking forward to talking through these topics with Steph. And as always, I'm your host, Jill Bartholomew, and this is the Be Fierce and Try podcast. Now, before we get started, I also wanted to mention to all of our listeners that Be Fierce Multisport, which this podcast is part of, we are 60 days away from opening our first retail location, which will be outside Philadelphia. And if you are in the market for a new bike, we are a Quintana Roo dealer. So please look us up, drop us a line, and we will get you pre-fitted for a Quintana Roo and help you get that ordered. That said, Steph, I would love if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I basically just read off of your bio. What's not on there?
Hi. So yeah, I've been a triathlete for many years. I started when I was 15. Truthfully, I think I saw the Olympics that year and I was like, hey, I can do that. I swim, I run. All I need is a bike. My parents brought me to the local bike shop and I went out on a test ride on these really skinny tires and I hadn't ridden a bike in a few years. Like I stopped riding bikes at 12 and I go out and I almost fall, but I loved it. And so I started doing triathlon at a really young age. And the guys at the bike shop really kind of took me under their wing, taught me everything to know about bikes, road bikes, tri bikes. So I started working there and all through high school and college. I really enjoyed it. And so now I've been doing triathlon for over 20 years. I've had seasons where I did the junior elite, draft legal type of racing, really intense. I've gone to age group world championships. And then I've also gone through the season of life of having kids and starting a full-time job and actually having more than one job, just being really busy and just trying to fit it all in. And also undergoing some injuries myself, but also some medical issues in the past couple years. So just kind of triathlon through all seasons of life. And I like to share that with not only I've gotten my husband into running marathons recently, he decided to do that on his own, but also my daughter, today at the park, I ran her to the park and she described to her friend, that's my mom over there. She's in the green shirt. I was wearing the Waco Ironman shirt. She's and she's the triathlete over there, So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, as you're talking through that, I'm like, this is so familiar. The thing that got me into sports in the first place, we were in Lake Placid during I guess it was 1988 Winter Olympics, maybe. And except my sport became speed skating because I saw Bonnie Blair out there on the ice and she instantly became my hero and I wanted to be just like her. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then triathlon came later. So
that makes sense why you're a strong cyclist. Those muscles transfer over.
And in triathlon versus cycling, you used to see a lot of the same people in long track as you did on the the velodrome podium. But in aero, it's not just the same muscles, it's the same position. The body position is the same. The hip angles are very, very similar. Hinge. Wow, there's so much there. And seasons of life, you're also in a new season that I don't think you've been in before. You're in the season of small business owner.
Yes. And I've been a small business owner the past 3 years. When I started coaching and I was like, I'm going to do this thing on my own and learn it. And I did eventually like hire a coach to help me because I was like, I am medically trained. I'm not business trained. I don't know anything about marketing. But yeah, so that's been a journey. But then also now opening up my own physical therapy practice and that side of stuff. And that's a whole different journey.
I can only imagine. But you've managed to put together this practice that kind of pulls it all together with the PT, the training, the bike fitting. I mean, they all feel pretty related to each other. As
Yes.
someone inside several of those sub industries, I often find myself like, should I take some PT classes? Because it might be useful in what I do, right? So we have so many topics to talk about, but I'd love to hear more about your story of some of the injuries and health issues that you've had. And because I think it's very relatable to a lot of people, right? Like we're out there, we're in the sport, and maybe we're at, training at a high level, whether we're performing at a high level or not, doesn't really matter. But, especially if you're used to training like, say, 8 to 16, 20 hours a week for a full or 70.3 and maybe a bit less for shorter distances, but you're used to like that training regimen. It's built into part of your life. It's for many of us, it's become part of our identity. Like you said, your daughter called you out as the triathlete, right?
Yeah.
Like it is core to like many of our identities. And when we do get injured, that's kind of like it's hard to reconcile that, right? It can be a very significant change in lifestyle.
Yeah. And I truly believe that many triathletes, if you've been doing this for a while, like there is a story behind every race. Like whether you're coming back from an injury, maybe you've gotten a diagnosis that, you're changed your life and you've overcome that too. So I just think it's very relatable. A lot of people kind of go through these cycles and seasons of life. And so just to start from when I was young, I was really into racing and being competitive, but I also was battling an eating disorder. And at the time, like back in the early 2000s, also underfueling was kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And I fell into that trap and I wanted to be lighter, leaner, not only to look better, but also to race faster. And I was a little out of control. And I ended up with a stress fracture. And I didn't know where or why or how it came. I was a teenager, right? And honestly, like a lot of the physicians I was working with, they didn't really know what was going on either because
Hmm.
it was the beginnings of the female athlete triad, but no one really had experience with it. So, I had all of the symptoms. And it wasn't until honestly a couple years later in college when I just had a breakdown and I went and started seeing a psychologist. And like she changed my life, changed my mindset, and went on a healthier journey of learning to actually fuel my body and was a lot happier after that too. So that was one season of life.
I feel like many athletes, like not just triathletes, but athletes in general, especially those around middle age, can probably relate to that. Like, the eating disorder is not uncommon even
Right.
today, right? I feel like I see it less than we did a decade ago, but I mean, it's still there and it's feast or famine for a lot of people.
It is. And I honestly, coming from it with my background and then now that I'm coaching people and I dive deep into like nutrition and
Hmm.
workouts and such. And I think also people are under fueling, but they're not even aware of it. So there are people like I was aware I was under fueling. And then there's other people who just, they're actually not aware. And that's just been kind of like their normal for so long.
And when you say underfueling, you're not just talking about underfueling during the activity, but
Right.
underfueling just in general.
Throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just not getting the nutrients that they really need or like skipping meals.
Now, I've seen a interesting phenomenon lately, and it's not new, but I've seen athletes underfuel on course, but then grossly overfuel outside of the race. And it's like taking in too much calories in your normal everyday does not translate into having large, easily and readily accessible stores of energy when you need it during the race,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I think I've had to overcome some of that mindset too, because it's like you feel like you're eating enough throughout the day. And it's like, nah, I can't add those extra calories in while I'm working out. But you do, and you need it for energy, right? So you kind of overcoming that mindset can be challenging for some people.
Yes. Although I had a hard bike ride yesterday and several hours on the bike the day before. And I very definitely got off the bike at 9 o'clock last night and then went to McDonald's.
You get your protein and your
That's,
sodium.
I'm like, not the best, but everything else was closed. Got my protein, got my sodium, and went to bed very full.
There you go. There you go. Wow,
So
9 p.m. That's a late ride.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
as a small business owner, you do what you can when you can, and
Yep.
it's not always the most convenient time.
Exactly.
So you had this stress fracture, which was a result of kind of, under fueling your body.
Yeah. And so my pet peeve with our process regarding bone stress injuries and stress fractures is sometimes not all physicians are aware of what that truly looks like, especially back then. I went in and it was tibial and the x-ray was negative, which typically bone stress injuries don't show up on x-rays. And they were like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's just shin splints. So I kept running on it because I was so in the zone. And yeah, so full-fledged stress fracture, So like not having the correct information can really cause like steps to occur, like downfall.
Well, and when a physician says, don't worry about it, it's something that will heal on its own and the load you're putting on it isn't going to make it worse. You essentially are given the message of suck it up and deal,
Yeah, pop the
right?
Advil and go,
And
which
as coaches, we tell our athletes, like, there is a difference between discomfort and pain. And you
Mhm.
clearly were in the pain zone and you try to take action and your physician's like, ignore the pain. You're like, all right, I'll go do that.
yeah, it's like I can push through pain. I know how to push through pain, right? Like
Yeah,
a lot of us can.
we're capable
So,
of it. We and as especially endurance athletes who are used to
yes.
training, it's like, you can push through the pain and, we don't want you to, but now you're told to. So
Yeah.
what do you do? So how did you discover it was actually a fracture?
It wasn't getting any better and I was popping Advil before runs and then we went back and they were like, "Oh, maybe we should do an MRI." And then they finally saw it on that.
Gold
Yeah.
standard right there.
Yeah. And that was back in like 2007. So, a while back. I feel like we've come a long way.
Yeah, it's a while back, but it's also not that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, although my son, he was of similar vintage, continues to inform me that I'm old because I remember when 20 was 19.
Yeah, I remember like Y2K.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how it wasn't a big deal when it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, anyways, okay. So you mentioned that, you had the stress fracture and it kind of, I think maybe repeated itself a few times.
Yeah, well, just that one time, but it really was a pivotal moment in everything. Like I was getting ready to go run at a D1 school, and then there I am with this stress fracture and not running for 6 to 8 weeks, right? So it really kind of changed a little bit of the trajectory and like my base training going into that.
Hmm. So did
But
you still
yeah,
end up running at that school or did you change
I
kind of
did. I
paths?
ran for a few years. Yeah. I was not the fastest, but I was there ready to do the workouts and do the races. And, it was great for me. So then a few other injuries down the road, not anything overuse injury related like the stress fractures, but
Hmm.
I just have very floppy ankles from swimming. I'm a swimmer originally. And so our ankles are not as rigid. They're more flexible. And when I roll, I've rolled my ankles so many times. And when you roll your ankle, the ligaments get stretched.
Hmm.
possibly torn, and like that doesn't necessarily get repaired and tight back up. So you have to use all of your muscles to strengthen to support it. So it just leaves me a little more vulnerable to roll my ankle on other times. And so uh-huh,
No, no, continue.
one time we were moving to this house a couple years back, and I had like carrying boxes. I couldn't see where I was stepping and I rolled my ankle.
I feel like
And
we need to bubble wrap you.
I know. Well, then the next day I went to go swim and I wore a boot on that one because it felt pretty bad, but I just wanted
Hmm.
to like super support it. And at the time, being a physical therapist at the hospital, there is no light duty. You have to wear a sneaker. You cannot wear a boot. There's no post op shoe.
Hmm.
So it's either you're in or you're out, like you're at work or you're not. And so I worked through it and I wanted to swim. So to walk across the street to go swim, I wore a boot on one side and I wanted to lift the other side up to be equal. And I wore this like clog, like nursing
Hmm.
clog shoe. The worst idea because then I severely sprained that one walking across the street.
So now both ankles are injured.
Yes, and then that one was the one that was severely sprained to the point where, like, when the ligament pulled away, it chipped off a tiny piece of bone.
Ow.
Yeah. So I still continue to work through that. You just really treat
But
that
the
kind of like
question is,
a
did you do the swim?
yeah, I did.
Of course.
Yeah, of course I did.
Like,
I
why
mean,
wouldn't you?
I was like, the water circulation is going to help if there's any sort of swelling going on. It's going to help with the circulation. I'll just get out and then I'll continue to like head home, wrap it up, get into work, and hobble
It's
my
amazing
way
the things
through.
that we can talk ourselves into.
Well, then, so recently, another ankle issue, like before Waco this year, about 2 weeks leading up to it, I was rebuilding my mileage. I brought my dog out for a brick run. And it was the time in Texas where all the bur oaks are dropping their acorns, and they're literally like this big.
Oh, wow.
They're almost the size of a softball, or at least the size of a baseball. And my dog is like a herding dog, so he likes to run around and bite the leash. And I was like, "Stop, Duke! Stop, Duke!" And I kept looking at him, and I didn't realize this stupid bur oak on the on the ground. And I rolled the same ankle, did the same exact thing.
The one that the ligament like partially separated.
Yeah, yeah. So 12, 13 days later, I wrapped it up with like Leuko tape, and I did Waco, and I kept a spare Leuko tape in transition and rewrapped it again before the run. I wore super supportive, like my more supportive running shoes, and I hobbled through the half marathon and I was able to load it. If I wasn't able to load it, I wouldn't have done it, but I was able to load it. Yeah. But then after that, I just shut down everything for quite a bit and just swam, and have been
I,
rebuilding.
I feel like most, if not all, athletes who have been athletes for a while have stories of doing things
Similar.
like this. I may or may not have run 3 marathons in 4 months with a broken leg.
3 marathons in 4 months.
Now I can justify it because
Was it the Disney marathons?
so fun story. I wine and dine and got a pain behind my knee, sharp pain behind my knee. It was horribly painful throughout. Well, in out here in Pennsylvania, November is a very busy month for racing because that year it was wine and dine. Then the weekend after that is Rocky Run, which of course is like has a portion that's basically up a vertical hill. There's actually a timing mat at the bottom and the top, and it's a challenge to see like they have a separate leaderboard for the hill because it's so steep, and they give a separate award out for the top 100 athletes to get to the top. And because most people end up walking it. Then the weekend after that is Philadelphia Marathon. And I, of course, do all of them, right? And the Philadelphia Marathon is not just the marathon, it's the half marathon and 8K and the marathon,
Mm,
kind of like mini dopey. And
hmm.
then a month later, you got Dopey. And then a month later is Princess. And then a month later is the London Marathon.
That's a lot of running.
Yeah. Well, I went to the ortho like 4 times in that space, and they were like, "Oh, it's IT band pain." They did an MRI. "We see inflammation at the top of your calf. It's obviously IT band." Turns out I had
Wow.
a not stress fracture, a actual fracture that was almost all the way through in the, top of the femur just below the femoral head, and yeah,
Wow.
so by the time they found it, it was, like, almost completely healed. But yeah, so I ran 3 marathons and God knows how many half marathons, plus all the training on a
And they missed
broken
it.
leg. Yeah. Yeah, because when they
I'm
did
so
the MRI,
sorry.
they just did the knee because the pain was in the knee.
In the knee.
And when I
And
finally
nothing like in the hip or anything.
nope. And when I finally switched to a sports ortho, he's like, from the speed skating days, there's so much mass in the quad muscles. He's like, it was
Uh-huh.
the quads that actually prevented it from being like completely broken all the way through. He said on the MRI, it looked like or on the X-ray, he's like, it looked like a green twig had been snapped. It's like that's what the fracture looked like. And to this day, that was in what, 22? To this day, I still have problems in that leg. It's the one I just had hamstring
Yeah, I
surgery
did
on
see
back
that.
in
Yeah.
November. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like kinda the same thing with your ankle. It's like, once you have, like, something like that, it's just so much more vulnerable
Mhm.
to other problems. Maybe not the
Yes.
same one, but, like, things around it.
Yes, and that's really what I see as a physical therapist and also, like, in my coaching. Because someone will come in and they'll say, I have pain here or whatever. But
Mhm,
then I go through their history and they're like, oh, yeah, years ago, this and this side
mhm.
always. So then it's like this whole side is affecting. And what do you know? The pain is on that side too. And so we kind of have to look up and down the chain. If it's at the knee, look at the ankle, look at the hip, look at the trunk, look at, like all of that. And yeah,
Yeah, but, like, for me, I'm sure it's true for other people as well, because you have, like, that big injury and your body remembers it, and in your mind, there's still, like, that little every time there's, like, a little niggle,
twinge.
you're like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, I didn't break my leg again." It's like, "Well, no, you didn't break your leg again." But anytime something happens in the right leg for the longest time, it was like, "Hey, doctor, could we do another, like, MRI and just, make sure that it's still good?"
Right, you wish that you could have, like, regular MRIs done.
Yeah, yeah, no, like, at one point, he's like, "You didn't break it. Could we stop having this conversation?" But then after the hamstring now, I actually had an issue at Happy Valley where, like, my right hip suddenly got really painful on the run, which is why I had a kinda trash run, and, um, I thought it was actually in my hamstring because I initially felt the pain in my hamstring. When I went to the ortho, he's like, "No, you're just so used to there being pain in the hamstring that, like, because it's similar nerves, the body just interprets it as hamstring, even though it had nothing to do with the hamstring." I'm like, "So my hamstring's good, right?" He's like,
It's good to
"Hamstring's
go.
fine." He's like, "Hamstring's fine, but we need to work on some other things."
Mhm.
Eh,
Yeah.
so, you see these as a PT, you see these as a coach, and you experience them as an athlete.
Yes.
How do bring someone through that, kind of recovery? And do you ever really get to a place where, we can proactively do things to maybe minimize, I won't say prevent, but like reduce our risk?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty now of kinda doing my own practice is I can start with an athlete.
Mhm,
They come in to see me, they've got this pain going on. I can build them up, build a good foundation, get them started back to running, cycling, whatever it is, swimming, what they were not able to do, and then from there once the pain has resolved, we've kind of built this back up. The beauty of it is that I can also continue with them if they want to with coaching. So that way, we're using some strategies to prevent the recurrence of the injury coming
mhm,
back. And even with the athletes that I have been coaching that I have not seen for physical therapy in the past, but they have seen a physical therapist before, at least I have that more like objective eye that I can see and I'm planning their workout, but I can also see how they're responding to that workout.
Hmm.
right? So like as a coach, you'll see and get some feedback and have that discussion so you can have really that close understanding of what the body is truly going through. How much can I push you? But also, do I need to pull back a little bit? It's like that fine line of it. But also knowing our final goal is to get to that race, right?
So, as an athlete, how do you know where that line is? Right? Because it's like a really fine line between like this is okay, it's just uncomfortable, to you cross the line and catastrophe awaits.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're okay and this is uncomfortable is like maybe I had a little bit of extra soreness after that workout, but I was able to complete it and I'm not having actual pain.
Mhm.
Crossing that line is like, well, I was able to complete the workout. It was pretty hard. I had maybe something happen or maybe the pain flared up. And now the pain is lingering for 6+ hours after the workout going into the next day. It's like, okay, as far as pain goes, I think that has flared up something.
Mhm.
Right. And as far as the coaching side of things, we're like more specific on what can the body handle. We can use all sorts of metrics like heart rate, power, HRV, all of that kind of stuff to determine, are you working hard enough? Are you overworking? Right. So we get some of those metrics to determine and
So
also what the athlete's saying. Like if they're feeling I'm completely exhausted this week, I've work stress, I've life stress, I've this, I've that. Like you kind of get a good overall picture if there's communication.
so I love metrics. I'm curious if you see the same thing. I found that in the last year, many athletes are very eager to share HRV. I think there's been a lot of social media around HRV as like a almost panacea metric. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting sick. Look, my HRV tanked. Like, or it could be that you didn't go to bed for 2 days.
Right. Or that you had something at work like really just spike your anxiety,
Right,
a new
exactly.
project that's,
Yeah, and I've
yeah.
seen it. I picked up an athlete from a, we'll say, in air quotes, for those not looking at the video, celebrity coach. And like she was like pretty deep into reds and she didn't know it. Her coach didn't pick up on it. Like the training plan she was on was just like way too aggressive for her current physical abilities. And she was relatively new to training at high volume. And, you know, the indicator there really was like her HRV was trash. But, you know, the inverse wasn't true, right? It took a really long time for it to come back, much longer than, her body really took to heal. Like she was back to training at for her physical abilities, like a more reasonable,
Hmm.
pace, before the metrics followed, like they're kind of, they're metrics that
Yeah.
are fast to fall and slow to rise kind of things.
Yeah. Metrics are just one piece of the puzzle, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah. You really have to look at the whole body, the whole athlete, their mindset, kind of have to really understand the athlete. Everyone's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, I've seen a few coaches that don't really spend time with athletes, like different tiers of coaching,
Oh, yeah.
right? Where
The no
like,
communication coaching thing.
yeah, the
Yeah.
like digital only. And that's the
Right.
thing that you miss without having like that live interaction, whether it's virtual or in person. And like most of my athletes are virtual these days, is you don't have that like ability to very easily like pick up on things, see
Mm-mm.
like, you know, you see changes and the way they communicate, and it causes you to ask like, "Huh, tell me more about."
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that like I had an athlete who fell off the bike and hurt himself. He didn't tell me, but I saw it on his social media. You better bet I called him that day and like, "Hey, so what happened?
Yes.
Are you hurt?"
Uh huh. Exactly. I actually
Right?
had someone fall. It was like a skunk or something ran in front of his tire on a training ride before Ironman
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, and unfortunately his bike just got damaged and I think it was 5 weeks before or something. Luckily, he was okay. Like, everything structurally was okay, but yeah, he called me or, at least sent me a text or something, was like, "Hey, yeah, this happened," and I was like, "Okay, let's talk about it."
Yeah, this one didn't call me because I think his pride was hurt a little bit and he didn't want to admit to it. And I'm like, well,
It
you
happens.
told the world on social media, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we're here for our athletes to talk to us and tell us things. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we do
I personally, I would much rather know than not know.
first.
And it's like, I don't, it's like my job is not to judge you. My job is to, I mean, it is to judge
Exactly.
you somewhat, but,
Just to
it's,
guide you.
yeah. Yeah. It's like, that's an important piece of information because it tells me a lot. Like, was it a one
It
time thing? Was
is.
it a squirrel that ran out in front of you? Did you get distracted using your phone on your bike when you shouldn't have been?
No.
It's like you should never use your phone on your bike. Or is it like a skills issue? Or is there something
Right.
else going on?
Yeah. Is there something we can change?
Yeah, and I find, like, most of the time it's a skills issue, but not always. Yeah, around here, we have to worry about deer.
Mhm.
We've
I
had
remember that.
yeah, I know a few folks who have, been hit by deer. So you
Yeah.
don't think about that. You think
Wow.
about it like driving your car, deer running
Mhm.
in front of the car. You don't think about a deer running into the side of a cyclist,
Exactly.
but it does happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kinda pivot the topic for a moment.
Sure.
So we've talked a lot about injuries and like working through some of them. If you are listening to this, the question that's I would expect would be in our heads is, all right, well, what are the things that I as a endurance athlete, which is, our listeners are split. A lot are triathletes and a lot are runners. There's quite a few large contingent of dopey runners, and many of us are serial dopies. What are the things that like we can add? And I hope that all the endurance athletes who are listening have some strength and conditioning built into their training plan. But as part of that, like what are the things that we can add to help reduce our risk of injury? And I mean, I've seen a lot of people's like training, strength regimen over the year. And for a lot of people, it's just like what they're familiar with. It's like, well, I swim, so I should work on my shoulders, right?
Mm.
I run, so I should do squats. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's only like that. Okay, fine, but like it doesn't
Yeah.
really help you strengthen maybe like the weakest link in the chain.
Yeah. So if we're starting off with strength as injury prevention, truthfully, I think it's important to have into your weekly regimen. I like functional lifts, squats, deadlifts,
Mhm.
single leg work, RDLs and split squats, and for shoulder, some resisted external rotation type stuff to help with that, and just like upper back rows, all that kind of stuff, I think are very important to have into your regular strengthening routine. But then also, it's not just about strength. Like, if you're recovering from an injury,
Mhm.
you're going to be targeting a specific area to rebuild that because it is a weaker link from the other sides. But then you also want to just become more well rounded, be able to lift, push, pull, carry, all the basic things. But that is just one component of injury prevention. The second biggest factor, I think, is really fueling yourself appropriately, making sure you're getting in enough protein, carbs, fat throughout the day, not leaving out one of those macros, being consistent with your meals, not skipping meals, not fasting, especially for an endurance athlete.
And and on the nutrition side, like for an endurance athlete, yeah, I mean, we all see whether you're in the US or Europe or somewhere else, like pretty much everywhere has the same like your plate should have this many portions of protein and this many portions of whatever. But for an endurance
Exactly.
athlete, it's actually different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You want to increase the carbs that you're putting on your plate.
Hmm.
Like, protein and carbs will be a little bit bigger than the fat source, but it also depends on what kind of carbs. Like you were saying last night, you don't normally do McDonald's, but like French fries are very different from like quinoa, right?
Oh,
So,
I didn't say I went that far.
You didn't.
I didn't I didn't do the
You
french
didn't do the
fries.
french fries.
No,
You
I may or may not have, I won't admit to this, but I may or may
That's
not
okay.
have gone through the drive-through with it's McDonald's, not double Whopper,
Yeah, yeah.
a double quarter pounder, that's right.
There you go. So you got your protein.
Right, but I did
Yeah.
onions and lettuce, so obviously
So you got some vegetables.
I got my veggies in.
Yeah, I do think that having vegetables at most of your meals, fitting it in is really important because it's not only just giving you, okay, eat vegetables, but like there's really important minerals and vitamins that are in each different types of vegetable that we
But,
need.
like, I see this more with women than men, very stereotypically. As a endurance athlete, unless you are specifically a vegetarian, subsisting mostly on salads is not going to fuel you appropriately. Even if you add chicken to you're not getting enough.
No, especially if you like romaine because that has absolutely nothing in it.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean,
Yep.
most vegetables are very similar, right? Like, maybe it's not
Yeah.
0, but it's close to 0.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah, you are getting some stuff that is good for you,
Exactly.
but
But
you're not.
if you do like salads, I always say like take a little bit of quinoa or some barley or something and like mix it into your salad. And then there you've got like a good substantial carb.
Yeah, and that's not to say don't have salads because, salads are great, but
Unless it's
you
race
can't
week.
have only salads.
Yeah,
You can't live off of just salads.
exactly. Yeah. But so I think nutrition is a big component to it. Like I said, coming from underfueling for so long, like I see that it's so important to fuel. And then other things, sleep. Sleep is a big factor. Stress, work and life stress, trying to manage that, whether it's through meditation or trying to figure out what's going on with work or life and how you can improve that, you know?
So, many athletes will claim, whether we believe them or not, I don't know, but many athletes will claim that their sport, whether it's running or swimming or triathlon or whatever, is actually how they deal with, stress, work stress, life stress. Um, and what you're saying is like that's great, but we need to do some we need to do something beyond your sport to help to control the general stress and anxiety level that we have in our daily life.
Because eventually that sport could also add to the stress
Yeah, when you
if you're
break
trying to fit it all in, right?
yeah, yeah. I get stressed both of the, "Hey, here's my training plan. How am I gonna get all of it done?" Which I think is probably pretty relatable for most people who are not full-time athletes, right?
Right, right.
Especially if you're like weekend warrior,
Mhm.
okay, that's fine. But, like, if you're training for, like, an Ironman or an ultra run or whatever, these are non-trivial numbers of hours a week, right? They add up to essentially a part-time job. And at the same time, um, you know, where was I heading with that? I have no
I
idea.
know. You have to deal with
Yeah,
work
yeah, you have
and
it just it
life. You've
like,
got
it
a family and
the training itself creates, like, schedule anxiety,
yes. And you
like
have to be really good at time management. Like, I
yeah,
think
like
that's what I learned as a young kid, being really good at time management, and that's how I could sustain at these, like, some of these fast-paced outpatient PT clinics.
yeah,
Yeah,
the biggest time management advice I've given to myself and my athletes is do your workouts in the morning. The ones you put off for the rest of the day, they just become so easy to not do.
to skip.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm tired. I had a long day at work." Something unexpected comes up with the kids. It's like, "Oh, yeah, we're just not gonna do that today. It'll be fine."
I agree. That's how I do it, you know?
And then you get more stress.
Yes,
There's
exactly.
And there's nothing quite like, starting the day having finished your workout and all of the endorphins and everything from that still kind of floating around.
Yeah, it carries you into your first, like, couple hours of work or whatever you're doing for the day.
Yeah, it generally lifts your mood.
It definitely does. Those
I don't know
endorphins
about
feel good.
runner's high, but it lifts your mood.
Yeah.
So, what else can we do to help to kind of prevent injuries? And let's say you've got, so I have a great example. There's a gentleman who is on the roster, not injury prone, middle aged, has never until recently had an injury. And then out of the blue, he's he's like out there cycling. He's like, my back hurts. Now can't swim, can't run, can't bike because his back hurts. He's getting an MRI. So we don't know exactly what, but we probably all have some ideas floating through our head on what it might be. Like, what could he have done to maybe
Uh,
help to reduce
does
the probability of an injury?
does he work at a desk job?
He does.
So a lot of times endurance athletes, if it's related to the spine, I tend to see the issue come more from their everyday life versus their exercise. Now, one could say that maybe the bike position is off. Maybe he's a little too aggressive down in the drops. That could be a factor. The fit
Mhm.
could be off. But then also, I see so many people they work at the desk 8 hours a day or so, and over time they get slunched at their computer screen. They lose time, especially like computer programmers. They just like lose concept of time, and they're just like going out of project. And that excessive flexion over a long period of time can put more load onto our low back, our spine, our discs.
So the
And
the hunching, the posture.
yes, so the forward flex, because then your lower back rounds, and it
Mhm.
doesn't if you're not using a lumbar support of some sort, it's not keeping that nice natural curvature of the lower back.
Gotcha.
And so for long periods of time, yeah. So I see that a lot, honestly. And then when we're able to adjust or like workplace ergonomics, it tends along with physical
Mhm.
therapy treatment, it does tend to make a big difference. But I would say you can also look at the cycling position.
Yeah, I'm doing a bike fit for someone in a couple of days, and I asked her when her last bike fit was, and she's like, "About 10 years ago." I'm like, "I think it might be time."
Yeah.
A
That's a great
lot
time.
happens in 10 years to our bodies.
Yeah. Well, and even like people ask, how often do I need a bike fit? And I think a 2-year cadence is pretty good. It could even be sooner than that. But if you've experienced a huge improvement in, let's say, your FTP has increased by like, I don't know, 30, 40 watts, something like that. Like you've really made a huge improvement. You clearly have gained muscle in certain areas. Your body is looking different. You might be a little bit stiffer. You might have been working on your flexibility. Like all of those things can have factors on your fit.
So, trying to promote more frequent bike fits, one of the things that we're doing, and I'm I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I'm really curious to see how it turns out, is more of like a subscription to bike fitting instead of like this one-off event that you do. It's like for a fixed fee a year, it's like, "Here, we'll do a full fit, and then maybe 2 or 3, like, mini fits throughout the year," right? People, because if you gain weight, your fit might change. If you lose weight, it definitely changes. And if you get pregnant, it's definitely going to change for a while, but eventually it might go back.
Yeah, and
So,
your saddle, like width,
yeah, saddle
with the
width might
pelvis.
change,
Yeah,
forward, back position might change, even the angle that's comfortable or more powerful might change. Like you said, as you get stronger, as you lose that strength, detraining is a thing, in a proper training cycle, you do have a detraining cycle built in there.
yeah,
As you go through that cycle, your fit changes. So,
it does. Yeah,
especially once we get this new site open, I'm going to be trying to push that a little bit because I feel like if it would be beneficial, especially for people who train at high levels, right? It's like if you're doing like 3 Ironman a year, like
yeah,
holy crap, right? Like your body is going through a lot of stress. It's going to change, and you might end up with like a really aggressive position.
yeah,
But then you detrain a little bit, or maybe you're not competing, you want a more relaxed fit, like, let's make those changes
yeah, exactly.
instead
Yeah,
of
I agree.
when you're at home one day, suddenly like, "Hmm, this doesn't feel right."
Right. Yeah. Typically, I will. I'll do the initial bike fit, and you probably noticed this too, like the comprehensive initial bike fit. But everything's a little bit different on that trainer than it is when you actually get out and ride,
Yeah.
and you're riding for hours, right? So I always
Mhm.
say, keep me in the loop. The bike fit is more than just the one time that we're together. It is when you go out riding, ride it for a week, a couple of weeks, test it out, come back in for a quick, adjustment and just like keep me in the loop. Let me know what you're feeling because I can help problem solve it. It's not just like a one time we got your bike fit perfect.
Yeah, and that's when you hear, like, "Oh, hey, it was great." And then after 20 miles, this whatever started to hurt or whatever. And that's when it's like, okay, yeah, let's work on that specifically and
Yeah.
get you in for a half hour, an hour. We'll just like target that one thing. And that's why I
And
think like something like, a couple
like
times a
that.
year can be useful because like,
Yeah.
you know, after 20 miles, well, you're not reproducing that on my trainer. I'm sorry, but I don't have enough
Hmm.
time for you to be, riding 20 miles six
Yeah,
times during a bike
exactly.
fit. But, you know, give me the data, tell me like what hurts or is uncomfortable, and then we work from there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always like, so same with physical therapy. It's like a trial and error. And so it requires a little bit more contact points. Rarely is it like, oh, you did this fit and it's amazing and we're good to
Yeah.
go, like, and a lot of times, to be fair, people will seek me out because I am a physical therapist and
Mm.
they're like, I'm having pain. Like they tend to come see me because they're having that discomfort and it's complex.
Yeah, I had someone recently say to me, they're like, "Bike fit is a waste of money. I've had so many of them and I've always undone everything they did."
That's a shame. There's
So,
there's a lack of communication there.
yeah, my question is, okay, well, what is it that you undid and why did you do that? But it's an interesting piece of information. Like when someone comes in, it's like, you know, I'm skeptical. All right, well,
Yeah.
why? Like, what got us to this point?
You have to unpack it. I mean, the
Yeah.
same thing I've seen working in a clinic where a physician script is required. And so a lot of times the physician will see something that they say on their like physical, go see PT. And then the patient comes in, they're like, I don't really know why I'm here. And then you have to unpack it. You have
That's a
to really
great
have the,
introduction.
yeah, well, I've had a few of those and you just have to like, okay, let me, I don't know why you're here either. Let me ask you these specific
Yeah,
questions and let me see if I can dig into the hole a little deeper and figure it out. And, most of the time we're able to figure out why they actually were sent there and
right.
how it can help. But
So let's focus on like ultra athletes,
mm,
Ironman, ultra Ironman, or well, Ultraman, I guess. Which, if you've ever looked at the details of that, it's pretty crazy. I so want to do one.
I don't think I ever want to do.
See, I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll try anything once, almost.
Well, and you have so many dopies under your belt that, you know, you've got a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, yeah. I think this coming January is like number 7 or number 8. It is my favorite race, I'll be honest.
I love
Although
Disney.
although Kona is a like they're the same, honestly. Just the atmosphere, the energy in the air. That's what it is for me. It's the energy in the air. Yeah, but like, your ultra, someone who's going for that 100-mile, run, or, maybe it's an unbound where they're sitting on the saddle for 200 miles at a time. So thinking about these athletes, right? So like we're training for these bigger than life events, right? And like, let's face it, for many people, any one of these events is like a once in a lifetime thing. It's a bucket list item, right? How do you think about the injury prevention aspect?
Hmm.
Like we talked about some nutrition.
Yeah.
Like
I I
if
think
you're
that
a listener, like what are the things that you would suggest they start doing that's like really kind of practical helps
Yeah.
to like, maybe they don't have an injury or a history of injury, no like known real weak link, which I think probably describes many people.
Yeah.
What are the things that you do to kind of minimize the risk there of injury?
Honestly, I think like the small little things can build up to make a big difference. So, small little things like working on your single leg balance and like stability, a little bit of core, a little bit of standing on one leg, being challenged with something unsteady, making sure you're working on jumps a
Hmm.
little bit here and there. But
Well,
then all
let's put some bounds around that for jumps. Like, what should they be doing? Because
like
I've seen some people like go
short,
overboard
quick.
on this one.
Yeah, you don't need to be doing like the big box jumps and such.
Because we see that on social media with these
Yeah.
influencers who are like, no, go buy the 32 box and you should be doing like 10 rounds of 10 of these.
Yeah, so
And
you'll get like power and speed from that. You'll
mhm.
get power, but as far as injury prevention goes, like the more benefit is the bone loading strategies of the jumping. And so more recent research has shown that like that lower level, like the shorter but quicker kind of jump can
So
can
like
help a
6
little bit with
inches
that.
kind of thing.
Yeah, just like a little jump. So you don't have to like actually jump up to a box to get the benefit
Okay.
of that. Yeah. So I think a little bit of plyometrics adding into it, but you don't have to do a lot, right? Just like a little bit here and there, but something that's kind of consistent throughout the weeks. My
So
other
it's
biggest thing would
something
be,
that just kind of builds over time.
yeah, the other biggest thing is the training plan itself. Not looking at it week by week, but looking at it month by month, like as we do as coaches, right? So
So
seeing the
I
load
find
that
this one
builds.
interesting. I had a conversation with someone recently, and I'm still digging into this one. It's very interesting. So he's not working with a coach. He went to ChatGPT, and so he works a lot with AI professionally.
Mhm.
So he knows like you're with
It's
AI.
interesting he chose ChatGPT and not Claude, but being in the AI
So
space.
what he actually ended up doing was running it through a conglomerate of several engines. But he's smart enough to know that the quality of what you get is directly dependent on the quality of what you give it. So he created
Yes.
this pipeline where he takes all the data that he gets from his watch, from other sensors, and he's very sensored up because he's a tech guy. And he feeds all that data in and it generates a plan and adjusts the plan based on that data. But in looking at the plan, I said to him, I'm like, I have some serious concerns about what it's telling you to do. So he's training for a half marathon that's in 4 months. He's already doing long runs that are 50% longer than his target race. And he's 4 months out.
Has he ever run longer than that?
So the longest race he's done, he did a single marathon once several years ago. The half
Yeah.
marathon distance is not new, but is not something he's done in
Yeah.
3 or 4 years. And he has a history of overtraining.
So this
So
is being very complementary to maybe the prompts that he is putting into it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
That's what
again,
AI does.
smart guy knows how to structure great prompts, works with AI for a living. But as a coach, we're like, no, your training plan should be structured, it should be periodized, and it should be specific to your goal. Where here, it's given him an okay plan, but it's resulting in overtraining, in my opinion, as a coach, because he's given it all this data, and the data suggests he's capable of more, but it's missing the person that's behind the data.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just giving it from his subjective, but not necessarily an outsider's objective, like a,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This is my concern with people getting training plans from whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever, doesn't matter, is it's missing kind of the knowledge of the person and the connection between the plan and the goal. And then even if you do feed it back the data, there's no sanity checking of like
Hmm.
what it's spitting back out. And sometimes, like in this case, I said to him, I'm like, why are you doing a 20-mile run this weekend? Like, you're not training for a marathon. He's like, well, I plan to do a marathon in January. I'm like, yeah, so maybe you have a 20-mile run in November or December. We're in June. At the time we had the conversation, it was June.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens,
Yeah, me too. I'm sure he's going to show up and he's going to do fine. But I'm concerned about overtraining, and
And that could show up on race day, right? Because if you
it
don't
could
give it
show up
enough
on race day.
recovery, it's not gonna be the result
Yeah.
that you want.
And then, it doesn't necessarily incorporate things like speed work and
Exactly. That's
I
what I'm
think,
thinking. He's probably putting a lot of effort in the miles, but maybe not in the, like, specific speed work
yeah.
that yeah.
Yeah, the overall volume's there. It's in that
Mhm.
like 38 to like 45 range. So it's like
Okay.
not
Yeah.
not really in the danger range, but it's like high enough that like I might have some concerns based on like him going the last couple of years without any real
Without
training. It's like,
any yeah, exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah,
but like loading wise, it's reasonable in like an overall perspective.
throughout the
But
week.
how you get there matters sometimes.
Exactly.
So what else do you want our listeners to hear from you?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm an open book, so when anyone asks me a question, I just kinda go down the rabbit hole or share my experience. I really feel like it's important to share our experiences. And like when I was going through all of my medical issues, like in the past couple of years, I shared because it makes me feel better. And I think some people can relate to this if you have been injured before. Like, I want to be a fast athlete. That makes me feel really good, right? And I want to be showing up at races how I want to be. But then when you have these things that sideline you and you're not able to show up really the way that you exactly wanted to, it makes you feel better to share your story and like background. And I think that's been mentally has been a little challenging and I've overcome it, I feel like pushing through that. But
Mm,
I could say like being vulnerable and kind of talking to that because I know I'm not alone in that mindset.
no, and I feel like for most athletes, if like injury aside, if you're putting in the time and then you show up on race day and you end up with a result that doesn't feel like it's a good expression of what you're capable of, there's there's a psychological aspect
Hmm.
to like how you deal with that. And it
Exactly.
can be quite difficult to come to terms with, especially if instead of not feeling like you express what you're capable of, you feel like you gave it your all and you still didn't get the result you wanted.
Yeah. And I'd have to say, like, for example, the last couple years with the half Ironmans that I've done,
Mhm.
slowest by far I've ever done, right? Like my PR is way under 6 hours, like 5.5. And I would love to be there again. And I know I am capable of being there again, but not in my current medical, physical, just did not have enough time after all of those medical issues to really be consistent and build into that athlete. So I know that I'm not alone out there. Um, and I know that we all go through this season of life. But it's when people are like, oh, but you did the distance. And you're like, great. Thank you so much. Like it's hard. Sometimes it's hard with that competitiveness to turn off that competitiveness and just be grateful of like, yeah, I did a half Ironman today, you know?
Well, and I think that's the difference between like, I'm doing this as a maybe either a bucket list item or,
Hmm.
within serial athletes. There's,
Yes.
I think, there's different ways of looking at the sport. Many people do this just because like they enjoy getting out there, they enjoy the experience. And like if they're, finishing 1 minute before the cutoff, like they're okay with that
Mhm.
because they got to do it. I've heard
Yeah.
other people,
And that's amazing, you
right, and
know?
I've heard people describe that as like, "Hey, I got my money's worth," right?
Yes.
And then there's others who are in it, like, to push themselves and see, like, what are they capable of, And then there's others who are just, like, flat out competitive and, you wanna see your PRs going down, and newsflash, like, at some point, you get old enough that your PRs start going backwards. It's just the way it works. We're not
Hormones
going to be 22
and
forever,
age. Yeah.
although in this sport, it's more like 32, but at some point they start to like pulling the PR down starts getting a lot harder than it used to be. And meeting your PR on the same course is harder than it used to be. And, I think if we look at these three very different classes of athletes, the way you deal with disappointment can be very different. Because, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was talking to someone like for me at Jacksonville, I had a pretty okay swim. I was personally unhappy with my bike, but everyone around me was like, "You had an amazing bike." I'm like, "Yeah, but I was slower on a flat course than I was at Kona last year." So like comparing myself to myself, like my fitness went down enough that I was slower on a easier course, right?
Right.
Which
Right.
yeah, like dealing with that was like, "Whoa, I should have been faster in this." And then the run sucked because I had just gotten over an illness and in my chest was still sitting this respiratory thing. And every time I started running, I just couldn't breathe. So
And it was a hot, humid day because it's Jacksonville.
it was.
Yeah.
But like running, like for me, like running, every time I got that sea breeze in my lungs, I just like started coughing and I'd run for like a quarter mile and then just be like hacking along up. But so I was super disappointed in my marathon time. But another athlete might look at my marathon time and be like, wow, that's amazing. I wish I could run that. So it's all like relative, right? It's like
Yeah.
relative to what like I know I'm capable of. I wasn't there.
Exactly.
Right.
It's so true. Yeah.
And I think that's all like, we say in this sport like you're competing against yourself, but
It's
it
so
really
true.
is.
I always compete against myself.
Yeah. We get a ranking, but like really it's like, unless you're trying to get a slot to world championship or something, it's really like, did I do for me at least, it's like, did I do what I'm capable of? And
Yes.
unfortunately the answer is almost no. Almost always no.
It depends on that day
Yeah.
and what life was like leading up to it. Right. So,
Yeah. What did the day before bring? And
yeah.
these like some people when they show up like, you know, bike check-in is Friday at 4 p.m. for a Saturday race, and they get off the plane at 8 a.m. on Friday. I'm like, how did you do that? I'm like, I was there on Tuesday, and that same person looks at me and they're like, the heck were you here on Tuesday for?
Well, that's nice. Now I don't have to worry about PTO. I used to be the one coming in real late.
Yes. And that is one of the advantages of being a small business owner. Unfortunately, what it means is that if you show up on Tuesday and not Saturday, you're not making money on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
Yes, but it's vacation.
Yes, yes. It's unpaid vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it is quite a difference being I have found as a small business owner, I appreciate the more flexibility, but also like, a lot of the decisions you make on like where you physically are affects, your
Yes.
ability to make money, which pays the bills.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I'm finding out like I have to figure out what my schedule. It's not the 9 to 5 anymore, right?
No.
So I'm like figuring out how much time do I want to be available for, and I think my biggest challenge will be boundaries. Figuring out when I should say no. I'm actually not available at that time, right? So
No, I think that's right. And, I still struggle with free. I give away a lot of free because
we
your time.
naturally do.
Yeah, because like it feels like your time it's like, it's just a couple minutes. Like, but yeah, like, but I just gave you away $300 worth of skill that I have and would normally charge for. But, it's like, so,
I think it's
it's a
because
balance.
we inherently want to help people.
Yes.
We enjoy doing it, right?
Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And what is your next race?
I don't have one. Don't have one. Yeah.
Oh,
We are so another thing that's been going on the past couple years, like we've been having a hard time conceiving. So I'm kind of giving my body a little bit of rest coming off the medical stuff and
mhm.
a couple half Ironmans. And I'm just honestly, I joined the gym that where my clinic is, and I'm doing 3 heavy strength training days a week to rebuild my strength back. Just doing short runs, swims, maybe I'll get on the bike here or there, but just kind of like staying active and seeing where life breaks me. But for the first time, I don't have a race on the calendar. And but I have some ideas of what I want to do probably next year.
I feel like we're going to see you at Dopey 2028.
I would love to go down to Disney again. We were just there.
Well, you
My
see, you should come
my
down in December or January and spectate Dopey this year so that you can convince yourself to sign up for Dopey next year.
and it's during the times when it's not blackout dates, right?
You're a pass holder?
No. So we get my brother-in-law works there part-time, so we're able to kind of get in with with him.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the it's usually not blackout dates except for that Monday, Tuesday sometimes are. But
gotcha.
the last couple of years it hasn't been. There
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the last couple of years it's been
Nice.
and another week. Usually it's like the first weekend in January.
Yeah,
So if it's the first weekend in January, like that Monday, Tuesday before might be blackout. But the
yeah.
last couple of years, the way the calendar lays, it's been like the second weekend in January. So it's like
Okay.
yeah, we had that problem with my husband. He was an AP, but not like the higher tier, and we had to buy him some single day park tickets.
I
And I'm like,
know.
dude,
Gosh,
your single day park tickets cost
they are so
more than the
expensive.
difference in price on your AP. So yeah,
It is crazy,
it
you know,
is.
but
It is.
yeah, it's Disney.
Yes. Yes. The only organization that I have ever worked with that is more effective and efficient at separating you from your money than Disney is Iron Man. Yeah, we've all gone through the merch tent and been like, I'm not going to buy anything.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And
I've had a
then,
couple
and
other water bottles.
yeah, and then some water bottles, a hat, a mug, maybe a name t-shirt. And
And now they
the,
have this, like, mascot thing, so now my daughter wants the little
you mean
mascot
that guy
stuffy.
right
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Miles, they call him. I'm like, and
Right,
every year they come up with something new. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I obviously need that. Duh.
right.
And then you get home and you're like, why did I buy this? Did I really need another keychain? That sticker that was $11, like really,
Yeah,
why did
probably
I buy
not.
that $11 sticker?
Probably didn't need that.
Probably didn't need that. No. And then you find out that your husband bought the same $11 sticker. You're like, do we really need two of these? And that is why my bike box is covered with stickers.
Stickers.
Yes. Yes. All right. So on that note,
Mhm.
we're going to wrap up. So thank you, Steph, for joining. It's been fantastic conversation. I know we had been kind of going back and forth for a couple months, and I'm so glad it finally worked out. And
Me
best
too.
wishes to you and your new business. And for our listeners, they can find you if you are in the Austin area, I believe you said it was.
Yes.
So if you are listening and you're in the Austin area, how can they find you?
So, you can send me an email. My email is Stephanie at r3endurance.com. You can find me on Instagram, Steph_R3endurance, or I'm on Facebook too, R3 Endurance. So those are some
And
easy ways to reach me.
where is your new clinic?
My new clinic, yes, we're in Cedar Park. So
In Cedar
I'm, yep, in a gym. It's called the Yard Gym, Cedar Park. So
The
it's off
Yard
of,
Gym and Cedar Park.
yeah, it's off of Palmer and Ranch Trails, just north of
Awesome.
Avery Ranch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, If you're in the area and interested in working with Steph, you can find her there. And that's, as they say, a wrap for today's episode of the Be Fierce and Try podcast. I'm Jill Bartholomew. I hope that what you heard today was interesting, inspiring, and that this episode helped you to think smarter, train differently, and show up with more intention. Make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss what's next. And if you are looking for support on your journey to your next start or finish line, I would love to work with you. Here at Be Fierce Multisport, we work with athletes of all abilities, and you can learn more about coaching, training plans, bike fittings, and everything else that we are building at Be Fierce Multisport at the site, BeFierceMultisport.com. Until next time, train with purpose, execute with intention. And as always, be fierce and be you.